Hello and welcome to Brain Power. I'm your host Thomas Trombley, and we'll be discussing topics ranging from current news, world events, and religion. Basically, whatever bit of news that catches my eye. If you have a story you'd like covered here or a question you'd like answered, send me a message on Twitter at BrainPowerUp. Use the hashtag BrainPowerUp, like the group at facebook.com/BrainPowerOnline, or visit the website at brainpoweronline.webs.com. Today's Sunday, June 28th, and got a bit of a special episode today. Finally, reason and intelligence have won out over religious nonsense and hatred. For those of you who've been paying attention, it's a great day. Well, Friday was a great day. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, well, shame on you for one. Gay marriage is now legal in all 50 states. And that's, once again, I've long maintained you don't have to be gay to support gay rights. I'm a heterosexual man myself, not that my orientation matters one bit, but, I still stand firmly with the gay community on this. I'm happy. I'm celebrating. It's a win for humanity. That's it, plain and simple. Anyway, that being said, in case you can't guess, just because once again, I'm happy. I'm so happy about this that this episode will be pretty much entirely dedicated to this topic. Got to work it out of my system somehow. But this one's actually, I'm kind of breaking from tradition. I'm not going for my usual news sources, which tend to be short and sweet, but more importantly, they tend to be unbiased in either direction, really. This time I'm actually going to Fox News because I'm really curious to see what their spin on this will be. All right, so this here is a news story that was written and set out on Friday. Here we go. The Supreme Court ruled Friday that same-sex couples have a right to marry nationwide in a historic decision that invalidates gay marriage bans in more than a dozen states. Gay and lesbian couples already can marry in 36 states and the District of Columbia, but in a 5-4 ruling, the court held that the 14th Amendment requires states to issue marriage licenses for same-sex couples and to recognize such marriages performed in other states. The ruling means the remaining 14 states that did not allow such unions in the South and Midwest will have to stop enforcing their bans. Already, gay marriages were underway Friday in several states where they had been banned. A court in Atlanta issued marriage licenses to 3 same-sex couples on Friday morning, soon after the decision. Other licenses reportedly were issued in Arkansas and Texas, where Governor Greg Abbott also issued a memo directing state agency heads to protect religious liberties. Justice Anthony Kennedy wrote the majority opinion, just as he did in the court's previous 3 major gay rights cases dating back to 1996. No union is more profound than marriage, Kennedy wrote, joined by the court's 4 more liberal justices. He continued, under the Constitution, same-sex couples seek in marriage the same legal treatment as opposite-sex couples, and it would disparage their choices and diminish their personhood to deny them this right. The outcome is the culmination of 2 decades of Supreme Court litigation over marriage and gay rights generally. Cheers broke out outside the Supreme Court when the decision was announced. Speaking in the Rose Garden, as he did a day earlier after the High Court upheld a key component of his health care overhaul, President Obama called the ruling a victory for America. The president said it would end the patchwork system we currently have, and the uncertainty gay couples face over whether their unions will be recognized in other states. This ruling will strengthen all of our communities, Obama said. But other justices argued that the court should not be able to order states to change their marriage definition. Chief Justice John Roberts, in a dissent joined by Justices Clarence Thomas and Antonin Scalia, called the ruling an extraordinary step. Many people will rejoice at this decision, and I begrudge none their celebration. But for those who believe in a government of laws, not of men, the majority's approach is deeply disheartening, he wrote. The majority's decision is an act of will, not legal judgment. Roberts wrote, if you are among the many Americans of whatever sexual orientation who favor expanding same-sex marriage, by all means celebrate today's decision, but do not celebrate the Constitution. It had nothing to do with it. Each of the 4 dissenting justices also wrote a separate report. Prominent social conservatives, meanwhile, blasted the decision. Tony Perkins, head of the Family Research Council, said it puts the government on a collision course with America's cherished religious freedoms. The ruling will not take effect immediately because the court gives the losing side roughly 3 weeks to ask for reconsideration. But some state officials and county clerks might decide there is little risk in issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples. The cases before the court involved laws from Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee that define the marriage as the union of a man and a woman. Those states have not allowed same-sex couples to marry within their borders, and they also have refused to recognize valid marriages from elsewhere. They previously had their bans upheld by a federal appeals court. Just 2 years ago, the Supreme Court struck down part of the federal anti-gay marriage law that denied a range of government benefits to legally married same-sex couples. There are an estimated 390,000 married same-sex couples in the United States, according to the UCLA's Williams Institute, which tracks the demographics of gay and lesbian Americans. Another 70,000 couples living in states that do not currently permit them to wed would get married in the next 3 years, the Institute says. Roughly 1 million same-sex couples, married and unmarried, live together in the United States, the Institute says. The Obama administration backed the right of same-sex couples to marry. The Justice Department's decision to stop defending the anti-marriage law in 2011 was an important moment for gay rights, and Obama declared his support for same-sex marriage in 2012. And that's the end of the story here. I got to admit, I'm kind of shocked and surprised that this wasn't more. Oh my God! The Bible says it's not okay. You know, I'm just shocked that there's not more of that crap in here. As a matter of fact, this article really reads as kind of passive aggressive. It's kind of like, yeah, it's legal now. So I suppose we've got to deal with it. I think it is kind of funny. But it's really hard for me to feel sad for anybody today. In these last few days, it's really tough for me to really care about the religious right who are upset over this. As a matter of fact, there's a meme that's been floating around Facebook. I've seen it a few times, and every single time I see it, I laugh. I actually literally laugh out loud when I see it. And it just puts a warm fuzzy on my. There's a story going around of a priest who said that he was going to light himself on fire if gay marriage became legal. Okay. But there's this meme, and it's a picture of SpongeBob just sitting there, just sitting in front of a desk, it looks like he's thinking or waiting. And then the text on the meme says, "While everybody here is celebrating the same-sex marriage, I'm just waiting for that priest to set himself on fire." I know that makes me a terrible person, but I'm okay with that. Until I actually saw another meme. Well, not really a meme. It was a post on Facebook. This one really not only pissed me off, but it should piss off everybody, or at least every American or anybody who believes in a free society, anybody who is against terrorism, anybody who's against violence, anybody who's against hatred. There's a guy. He actually posted on Twitter, and once again it was copied and pasted over onto Facebook. He actually said that, he said 6/26, so June 26th, Friday, June 26th, the day that gay marriage became legal. 6/26 is our 9/11. He's referring, R as he's referring to the Christian right. Yeah, this guy's name is Brian Fisher. I'll be honest, I don't know anything about the guy. I didn't know anything about the guy, so I looked him up on Wikipedia. Here's his article. Brian Fisher is the former director of issues analysis for the American Family Association. He hosts the talk radio program Focal Point on American Family Radio and posts the AFA-run blog Instant Analysis, formerly titled Rightly Concerned. Fisher opposes abortion, national health care, gay adoption, and same-sex marriage. Fisher's comments about homosexuality caused the AFA to be designated a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center in November of 2010. To avoid being classified as a hate group, the AFA has officially repudiated Fisher's views on Muslims, Native Americans, Hispanics, African Americans, the Holocaust being caused by homosexuals, the outlawing of homosexuality, and that Hillary Clinton is a lesbian. Wow! You know what? I forgot to mention it before I waded into this article, but this guy is the asshole of the week. He definitely earns that title. And, once again, just for the statement that I read off earlier and for the statements that apparently the AFA has said we don't want anything to do with, that this guy has said. I mean, he's like Pat Robertson on steroids. This guy's asshole of the week. That's just plain and simple. Anyway, continuing along with the theme, Stephen Colbert has actually thrown his hat into this area as anybody who's a fan of the Colbert Report, or back in the day when he was on the Jon Stewart show, the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. So I mean, you kind of know what, if you're a fan of either one of those shows, you kind of know what his sense of humor is, and I like the guy. Anyway, Justice Antonin Scalia fiercely dissented in yesterday's Supreme Court hearing legalizing gay marriage, so fiercely that he inspired a Scalia burn generator, which is kind of awesome. I'll put a link to that on the site. You'll be able to find that under the at brainpoweronline.webs.com. You'll find that under the podcast listing. It's under links there. And vowed he would hide his head in a bag. Right, hang on, let me back this up again. Justice Antonin Scalia fiercely dissented in yesterday's Supreme Court ruling legalizing gay marriage, so fiercely that he inspired a Scalia burn generator and vowed he would hide his head in a bag. Stephen Colbert resounded, "I could have sworn he was already hiding his head in a flesh-toned cinch sack." Then, without missing a beat, "Please come on my show, sir." Colbert took a swipe at the ruling's timing. "Wow, history moves fast. It's hard to believe that gays achieved full constitutional personhood just 5 years after corporations did." The New York Post runs down a list of comedians whose jokes ultimately helped legitimize gay marriage, which is kind of cool. I'll give a link to that as well. Scalia had complained that the court has descended from disciplined legal reasoning to the mystical aphorisms of the fortune cookie, leading Colbert to pull out his own fortune cookie and read, "The history of marriage is both one of continuity and change. In bed. Gay lucky numbers 5 to 4. Ah, you know, see, the problem is, this is funny. But personally, I don't do it justice, just because, well, I'm not Stephen Colbert. Uh, this is funny, trust me. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here's one that should be good. Why homosexuality is not like other sins. Pardon. Homosexuality is not the only sin mentioned in 1 Corinthians 6 through 9. I'm sorry, 6, 9 through 10. It says that, but I'm curious to... It's going to be just a moment here. I've actually got a Bible right here. Where is 1 Corinthians? 1 Corinthians... Is that even Old Testament or New Testament? Oh, here we go. It's New Testament. After Romans. That doesn't help much. What page is it on? Tell me the page. Here we go. 1 Corinthians 162. Bear with me. I'll be there in just a moment here. Flipping through the old Bible I got here. Okay, where we go? 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 9 through 10. Do you not know that wrongdoers will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Fornicators, idolaters, adulterers, male prostitutes, sodomites, thieves, the greedy, drunkards, revilers, robbers, none of these will inherit the kingdom of God. First out, holy crap. Fornicators will not get... So if I decide, if I have sex, ever, I'm a fornicator, I'm not getting in, okay. Idolaters, I can understand from the biblical perspective, worshiping another god. That's bad juju. What do we got? The greedy. Okay, so sorry, Donald Trump, you're not getting into heaven. Drunkards. Okay, that kind of is me. That's me. Really. Anyway, I'm done with that. Pardon. It's not the only sin mentioned, but it is different from all the rest, at least right now. At this moment in history, contrary to the other sins listed here, homosexuality is celebrated by our larger society with pioneering excitement. It's seen as a good thing, as the new hallmark of progress. To be sure, the masses increasingly make no bones about sin in general. Innumerable people are idolaters, not to mention those who are sexually immoral, or who commit adultery, or who steal and are greedy and get wasted and revile neighbors and swindle others. It happens all the time. And each of these unrepentant sins are the same in the sense of God's judgment. They all deserve his wrath, and we're constantly reminded that such were some of you in the church. Not quite sure what they were getting at with that last passage there, but anyway, as far as I know, none of those sins is applauded so aggressively by whole groups of people who advocate for their normalcy. Sexual immorality is no longer the tip of the spear for the progressive push. Adultery is still frowned upon by many. Accusations of greed will still smear a candidate's political campaign. Thievery is still not openly embraced. And there are no official initiatives saying it's okay to take things that don't belong to you. There's no such thing as a drunk agenda yet. Most aren't proud to choose a beverage over stability. And there aren't any petitions that the government should abolish the driving restrictions of inebriated individuals. Reviling others still isn't seen as the best way to win friends and influence people. Swindling, especially on a corporate level, usually gets someone thrown into jail. In fact, the infrastructure of the American economy depends upon, in some measure, our shared disdain for conniving scammers. Perhaps accepting fornication, these sins are still seen in a pretty negative light. But not homosexual practice, not by those who are now speaking loudest and holding positions of prominence. According to the emerging consensus, homosexuality is different. What to be against? As uh, as Christians, we believe with deepest sincerity that the embrace of homosexual practice, along with other sins, keeps people out of the kingdom of God. And if our society celebrates it, we can't both be caring and not say anything. Too much is at stake. This means it is an oversimplification to say that Christians, or conservative evangelicals, are simply against homosexuality. We are against any sin that restrains people from everlasting joy in God, and homosexual practice just happens to get all the press because at this cultural moment it's the main sin that is so freshly endorsed in our context by the powers that be. Let's hope that if there's some new cultural agenda promoting thievery, one that says it's now our right to take whatever we want from others by whatever means, that Christians will speak out against it. The issue is sin. That's what we're up against. And that's what should make our voice so unique when we speak into this debate. Some would like to see this whole issue of homosexuality divided into two camps, those who celebrate it and those who hate it. Both of these groups exist in our society. They are the growing numbers under great societal pressure who praise homosexuality. We might call them the left. And there are people who hate homosexuality with the most bigoted rationale and apart from any Christian concern. We might call them the right. Those glorious words. The current debate is plagued by this binary lens. Those on the left try to lump everyone who disagrees with them into that side. If you don't support, you hate. Meanwhile, those on the right see compromise and spinelessness in anyone who doesn't get red-faced and militant. If you don't hate, you support. But true followers of Christ will walk neither path. We have something to say that no one else is saying or can say. Distancing ourselves from both the left and the right, we don't celebrate homosexual practice. We acknowledge God's clear, revealed word that it is sin, and we don't hate those who embrace homosexuality. We love them enough to not just collapse under the societal pressure. We speak the truth in love into this confusion, saying simultaneously, that's wrong and I love you. We're not the left. We say, this is wrong, and we're not the right. We say, you're loved. We speak good news with those sweetest, deepest, most glorious words of the cross, the same words that God spoke us. You're wrong and you're loved. God tells us we're wrong, that the wages of sin is death, that unrepentant rebellion means judgment, that our rescue required the cursed death of his Son. Now it's referencing Romans 3:23. Where's Romans? Here's Romans. And I'm even on chapter 3. That's awesome. 3:23. Since all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. All right. That's it. That's all they're saying there. All right, fine. And God tells us we're loved, that even while we were sinners, Jesus died for us, that while we were unrighteous, Jesus suffered in our place, that though we were destined for wrath, Jesus welcomes us into glory. You're wrong and you're loved. That's the unique voice of the Christian. That's what we say, speaking from our own experience. As Tim Keller so well puts it, we're far worse than we ever imagined, and far more loved than we could ever dream. That's our message in this debate. When society's elites despise us, when pop songs vilify us, when no one else has the resources to say anything outside of two extremes, we have this incomparable opportunity to let the gospel shine, to reach out in grace. You're wrong and you're loved. We get to say this. That's why homosexuality is not like other sins. Okay. First out, I just want to, right off the bat, say that the law that was just laid out on Friday is not making homosexuality legal. It's making gay marriage legal. Okay, first off, that's a huge difference. Not only that, but really anybody with a half a brain, and I say half because that's about as much as the average Christian can aspire to, is half a brain. If somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, you know what? That's so cute that you're a white guy that shaves his head, and you know, and it's just so cute that you're like that." But God says you're wrong. Okay. You know what the difference is, though? That right there would piss me off because for me, it's a choice to shave my head. I just happen to think it looks good. Now, if somebody comes up to me and says, it's so cute that you're a white guy, but you're wrong. God doesn't like that. I would get pretty fucking pissed because that's not a choice. That's who I am. All right? Same way, if someone were to go up to a homosexual couple and say, it's so nice that that you're gay and everything, that you're gay for each other and you love each other. But that's wrong. I'm sorry, but no. That is not a third group, okay? Yes, I mean there are on any issue there are 3 points. 3 ways that you can be about it. You can either be for it, against it, or undecided. Okay, those are the only 3 points. Now, you can't. What they're describing is they are against it. Just because they're against it for a different reason or for even a slightly different reason doesn't matter. They're still against it. They're not for it. You know what? It doesn't even matter anymore. It does matter in the point of, there's still going to be people out there there's going to be people picketing gay marriage, gay weddings, which I'm willing to bet Westboro Baptist Church will be picketing as many of them as possible. These sort of things will go away eventually, but it's going to be a very, very, very long time. As a matter of fact, speaking of Facebook again, there's actually a poll online right now saying that just like slavery, which religion originally endorsed, but now pretty much all religious groups are saying, well, no. See, the Bible says that slavery is wrong. Yeah, there's a poll saying, how long do you think it'll be before the religious groups start saying that marriage equality was their idea? Personally, I put in 25 years. I say in about 25 years, that's when the churches will start saying things like, oh, well, remember when Jesus said, love thy neighbor, and turn the other cheek, all that. It's promoting peace and love. It hurts my brain to think of these things, but anyway. Here we go. Here's some fun news. Fox News and Sarah Palin have gone their separate ways. The former Alaska governor's contract with the network ended as of June 1st and will not be renewed, a Fox spokesperson tells Politico. The representative says the split was amicable, and Palin is still expected to show up on Fox and Fox Business as a guest. Politico says the move was made because execs no longer see Palin as quite so relevant. But she's not exactly going anywhere, as Politico notes. She has her own TV show, gives frequent speeches, will likely appear on other networks and cable channels, and has a new publishing project in the works. CNN Money notes that Palin and Fox previously split in 2013, but she returned to the network the same year. On a fairly similar note, I didn't grab the story, so I don't know the details of it, but I seen that Bristol Palin, Sarah's daughter, is pregnant again. And this time it says, Bristol is pregnant again, and this time she doesn't want to hear any speeches from people about it. Well, duh. But really, if there is any family on this planet that should not reproduce, it's the Palin family, all right? Just my opinion, but wow. Well, here's kind of a... My goodness, I apologize there. All right, here's a funny story. The American Taliban is on the move in 2015, this time in Iowa, where Tamara Scott, a Republican National Committee woman... Really, why did I say committee woman? It's just committee person, or... Anyway, made the case for teaching Christianity in public schools during an address to the Republican Presidential Forum. What you don't know is that yesterday, the imam prayed, she said. That one didn't make the press. You see, when we're not willing to defend our God in the public square, we shouldn't be surprised when others try to replace him. When we fail to teach it in the public school, the history of this nation, the God mentioned in our Declaration, the Supreme Court being mentioned in the preamble, the Supreme Being mentioned in the preamble of this Constitution of the state, and we not only don't teach it, but we suppress it and refuse to allow it to be taught. We shouldn't be surprised when others do differently and expect differently and think that religion is just about equality, because it's not. There's only one true God, and the Bible's quite clear about what happens when we refuse to tell the truth and we allow others to tell a wrong truth. So that's where we're at. We've been neglectful. We've been very neglectful. So no one even spoke about the imam being there yesterday, or the Muslims that were all around at the center of the Capitol, talking and evangelizing about their way of life. Do they have that freedom? Absolutely. But the shame is that so little people know the truth about the heritage, the Christian heritage. I'm sorry, Mr. President, but we were a Christian nation, and we were founded on Christian values. Once again, personally, I look forward to the day when all religious groups are the same minority that atheism is now. I honestly can't wait for it, because stupidity like this cannot be allowed to go unpunished, really. I mean, it's... just stupid people. Speaking of stupid people, and back to Donald Trump, he got in trouble with Mexico, apparently. As shocking as it may seem, Donald Trump didn't make a lot of fans in Mexico when he proposed building a great wall along our southern border on Mexico's dime to block all of its criminals and rapists from reaching the U.S. When Mexico sends its people, they're sending people that have lots of problems, Trump said in announcing his 2016 run on Tuesday. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. Understandably, Mexican politicians aren't pleased. Trump has a profound ignorance of the reality in Mexico and the migrant contribution to the U.S., its foreign secretary said. A politician that does not know reality does not have good prospects. Mexico's interior minister called Trump's comments biased and absurd. Even actor Rob Schneider chimed in on Twitter, reports AOL. Oh my God, AOL is still around? Wow, that's a bigger shock than anything I've read so far. AOL is still around? What about CompuServe? Is that still a thing? Yeesh. Anyway, Rob Schneider tweeted, "Dear Donald Trump, my daughter is half Mexican. It seems like her only problem is that she speaks 2 languages, and she's not even 3, he wrote. Trump acknowledges he went off script a little bit during his 45-minute announcement speech, but I meant everything I said, and I think a lot of it resonated with different groups of people. Yeah, he told the AP. Polls show that Trump may actually get a spot in an early Republican debate, but some in Mexico are still managing a good laugh at his expense. One satirical website has posted a cartoon of Jurassic Trump with the body of a marine beast attempting to gobble up a tiny fish representing Mexico. Okay, that's another one of these things. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's definitely going up on the page. Here we go. Here's kind of an interesting story for all the ganja-friendly members of my audience. A big boost for medical marijuana advocates. A massive study involving data on 1 million teenagers in 48 states has found no evidence that legalizing pot for medical use does anything to increase teen usage. The study, published in the Lancet Psychiatry journal, looked at some, 1,098,270 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade students over 24 years. The teens had been asked if they used pot in the last 30 days. The researchers found that teenage pot use not only failed to rise in the 21 contiguous states where medical marijuana was legalized as of 2014, Alaska and Hawaii bring the nation's total to 23, usage actually went down among the youngest teenagers from about 8% before the law was passed to 6% after. In states that brought in medical marijuana laws, teen pot use was already slightly higher than in other states, at about 16% usage to 13% usage. Experts say that this could be due to a more liberal general attitude towards the drug, Live Science reports. Our study findings suggest that the debate over the role of medical marijuana laws in adolescent marijuana use should cease, and that resources should be applied to identifying the factors that do affect risk. The researchers wrote, as for why pot use fell among 8th graders after it was legalized for medical purposes, here's one theory, that the teens started to see marijuana as a relatively harmless medical product, which certainly doesn't fit with the idea of being a rebellious teenager. Which, I guess does kind of make sense if you think about it. It's, kids and teens, they want to rebel, but it's not really rebelling if you're allowed to do it, or if it's perfectly fine to do. It's like, really? It's, as comedian Dennis Leary put it best, when he was talking about how the greatest thing that can ever happen to anybody, like a musician or a comedian or anything like that, was way back in the 90s when Tipper Gore made the record companies put the explicit lyrics stickers on any album that had explicit language. You put that warning on there, and that pretty much guarantees that kids will flock towards it. Dennis went on to mention how when he was a kid in Catholic school, the priest would would circulate a list of banned materials, books that the kids weren't allowed to read, records that the kids weren't allowed to listen to. For the younger members of my audience, a record is kind of like a CD that you play with a needle. If there's anybody listening to my podcast and you don't know what a record is, just turn the podcast off. Just stop listening. Anyway, but he says, the priest would hand out this list, and sure enough, those were the items that the kids sought out. So, same exact idea here. Wow. How much time we got left? All right, got about 6 minutes left. Got a few stories here. We'll actually finish out with, if you've been paying attention, you've probably noticed a lot of talk about the Confederate flag recently. And it's, for good reason it's been in the news, but here we go. The Confederate flag was momentarily removed from in front of the South Carolina State House by a woman who shimmied up the pole this morning. This was, what do we got, on Saturday? Yeah, this was yesterday. What do we got? A woman the New York Daily News identifies as Bree Newsom was about halfway up the more than 30-foot steel flagpole just after dawn when State Capitol Police told her to come down. Instead, she continued up and removed the flag before returning to the ground, where she was arrested. The Daily News reports Newsom was equipped with a harness and a hard hat, and quotes her as yelling from the pole, "You cannot get to me with hatred and oppression and violence. I come to do this in the name of God. This flag comes down today." Newsom was part of a group of roughly 10 activists who, according to organizer Tamika Lewis, intended to put the flag on lockdown in a box while the funerals of those killed in a Charleston, South Carolina church last week take place. But state police recovered the flag, which is protected by state law, immediately. It was raised again a short time later. A rally by flag supporters is scheduled for later today. President Obama delivered a 40-minute eulogy for Clementa Pinckney. I greatly apologize if I messed that name up. The pastor and state senator killed in the massacre. Obama broke out into amazing grace at the end. See, that's pretty awesome. I don't think Bush would have done that. I'm going to put a link to. There's actually a video of Obama. Pardon, I'm kind of breaking up here. There's a video of Obama singing the song and leading the group through it, and I'll post that link up online. Continuing on with the Confederate flag, Wal-Mart ditches it. If you want to stock up on Confederate flag gear, you'll have to do it somewhere other than Walmart. The company tells CNN it will stop selling Confederate flag-themed merchandise, a decision that comes in the wake of the South Carolina church massacre and Governor Nikki Haley's call to remove the Civil War-era flag from the state capitol. We never want to offend anyone with the products that we offer. We have taken steps to remove all items promoting the Confederate flag from our assortment, whether in our stores or on our website, a spokesperson for the retailer says. CNN, which specifically asked Walmart about its Confederate flag merchandise, is waiting for responses to that same question from Amazon and eBay. Now, I mean, really the only question that I would have there is, what about the Dukes of Hazzard? Because, their car, the General Lee, had the Confederate flag on the roof. And for some reason, lately, Dukes of Hazzard merchandise and all sorts of stuff from the 70s and early 80s is kind of coming back. I'm curious if they're going to sell that kind of merchandise, or if they'll find some way to censor it, or if they just, won't carry it. I'm curious. But anyway, who knows? All I know is I got about 2.5 minutes left. I got enough time to squeeze in one more short story. Here we go. Here's an interesting one. Astronomers say galaxy CR7 contains some of the universe's earliest stars. Astronomers peering through the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope in Chile have discovered a faraway galaxy of stars so significant they say we wouldn't exist without them. The galaxy, known as Cosmos Redshift 7, or CR7, a name inspired by soccer player Cristiano Ronaldo, is 3 times brighter than any other galaxy and was born about 12.9 billion years ago when the universe was a young pup at 800 million years old. Experts have long believed that just hydrogen, helium, and small traces of lithium were all that were around to form stars at that time, rather than metals that make up younger stars like our Sun. According to theory, they were hundreds or thousands of times bigger than the Sun, and as they died, they spewed their remnants into space, eventually producing the first heavy elements like oxygen, carbon, and iron. However, no evidence of these early stars had been found until now. Instruments reveal a bright blue cloud within CR7 likely contains only hydrogen and helium, while the galaxy's oldest stars contain no metals, a classification known as Population 3. In other words, those stars were the ones that formed the first heavy atoms that ultimately allowed us to be here, an astronomer says in a press release. It doesn't really get any more exciting than this. Interestingly, other stars in CR7 are among the late bloomers of the earliest stars, reports the Times, meaning they do contain some metals and are known as population 2. Stars rich in heavy elements discovered closest to Earth are considered population 1. As the study shows that population 3 stars reside amongst regular stars in brighter galaxies, not just in the earliest, smallest, and dimmest galaxies, which are so faint as to be extremely difficult to study, per the press release. Astronomers say finding more should be a bit easier from now on. Cool. Alright, I think that just about concludes the show. Actually, I ran over in time a little bit. As usual, this has been Brain Power. The next show will be Sunday, July 5th. And as usual, if you have a story you'd like covered here or a question you'd like answered, send me a message on Twitter at BrainPowerUp, use the hashtag BrainPowerUp, like the group at facebook.com/BrainPowerOnline, or visit the website at brainpoweronline.webs.com.